you're a leader of a major American movement that was whose focus was initially on police brutality and police violence, but certainly had wider interest than that, increasingly wide. And then suddenly Trump comes along and wins. How does this change the dynamic of the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you feel like you've lost for the moment? Are you psychologically, how deep a blow is this? And what do you do to overcome it in terms of action and organization?
We will have only lost if we lose our will to resist, right? There's the... I'm very clear on that, right? So we will get 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. That's how this thing works. But it is if they kill my will to resist, then I will have lost. And I appreciate you talking about the broader objectives that we have. I often use the analogy of a tree because we have been working to uproot a tree that is rooted in systemic racism and oppression. There are many things that branch off from this tree. There's much fruit that this tree bears, right? Inequitable housing, inequitable education, police violence, and the like. If we were only oriented toward breaking off a branch, we'd still have this rotten tree. So we've always been oriented toward uprooting the tree and planting something in its place that bears fruit for all people. And what that means is that the resistance and the movement continues to be strong. Because now what we're saying is that, and I heard a professor say once that Ferguson protesters saved American democracy, right? Like young people in Ferguson reminded us of our democratic responsibility to resist, to speak truth to power, to do that in every single way we know how, with our humor, with our art, with our writing, with our bodies, with our sacrifice. And in doing so, for the last 2 years, reminded folks on the day that the Women's March happened that, yes, that also means you too. So if you went to the Women's March here, thank a protester, right? Thank somebody in Baltimore. Thank somebody in Ferguson. Because pushing in that direction has gotten us to the point where lots more people are coming into this work and lots more people are recognizing that they have something to contribute. It will be, though, critical that this then does not move in the direction of so many movements that get co-opted once again by supremacy. So you found lots of women of color who said the Women's March is actually not for me. I went myself. I know the women of color who were involved in leading it.
Where did you go? What was your experience of it?
So I was in D.C., which is where I live, and it was fascinating, right? Because half of me was wondering where all of these people were when Sandra Bland was killed in Texas, if I'm honest. But the other half of me recognized that everybody had a first time. I had a first protest. Nobody was born awake, right? Something woke each and every one of us up. And so the question that I kept asking people, literally and figuratively, was, what are you going to do tomorrow that was different from today? And how are you going to ensure that your presence here, especially if you are a person with privilege, isn't taking up space and blocking out other people, right? It's the difference between being an ally and an accomplice. Allies take up space and congratulate themselves. Accomplices are ready to take risk with me and actually put other people out front.
And what's the plan then? What do you see happening in the coming months?
The plan has to be about discipline, right? I believe, we were talking about this earlier, I fully believe that the kind of disorientation we are all experiencing right now is purposeful. They want us to wake up confused as to what happened the day before, or how this many things happened at one time, or he tweeted what. Like, that is the reaction that you want me to have, so that I become so disoriented such that I get distracted from my original objective. So this has to be about continuing on the path that we have been on and elevating other people who are experts in other areas. I don't need to go and be a new expert on reproductive rights. I need to ensure that Planned Parenthood can still exist. And Planned Parenthood needs to help us recognize that all of this stuff is tied together, right? If you're here to help me, then you're wasting your time. But if you are here because your freedom is bound up with mine, then let us work together.
And concretely, what shape do you see, broadly speaking, the movement taking? If the movement is taking in all this kind of anti-Trump feeling and goes beyond Black Lives Matter as well, describe the level of organizing that's going on now as you see it, or not.
I think that the level of organizing that we are experiencing is certainly much more broad, but it continues to be focused. I think what we're seeing now is people examining the gifts and talents that they have and the areas of access and influence that they have and moving in that direction.